Manitoba's housing supply grew faster than its sales did this June. Across all MLS listings, they were up 6% year over year, and sales were up only 1.9%. That gap is where the month's real story lives. Across the province, 1,229 detached homes sold in June, and the average detached price climbed to almost $484,000. Both still up year over year. Underneath the headline growth, something in this market is shifting. Here's the market stats for June of 2026, number by number. Let's start with the big overall picture. Across all property types in Manitoba, there were 1,698 sales in June, and that's up 1.9% from June of last year, where we saw 1,666 sales. And the average sale price across all MLS sales came in at $430,000, up about 1.6% year over year from last year's $423,000. Active listings on the market came in at 3,940. That's up 6% from June of 2025. The new listings coming to the market jumped over 9% year over year. It seems like more sellers are deciding now is a good time to list, and that's worth paying attention to because when supply rises faster than sales, the dynamic between buyers and sellers start to shift. The absorption rate for June was at about 2.32 months of inventory. That puts us firmly in a seller's market, and the range for a seller's market is generally 0 to about 3.5 months. Buyers still have some urgency here, but we're not in a crazy conditions of the past few years. Before we go any deeper, I'm Justin Zinkowski with Royal LePage Prime Real Estate. I work in the Winnipeg and Interlake regions. If you want to talk about what's happening in your specific neighborhood, or if you're thinking about making a move, there's some links in the description below. You can book a call directly, you can get on an MLS alert list, or you can download some free guides I put together. You can pick whatever's most useful for where you are right now in your search or in your selling process. Single-family detached is the biggest category and typically the one that tells you the most about what's really happening in the market. Province-wide across Manitoba, there are about 1,229 detached home sales in June, up 1.8% from the 1,207 we saw last year. The average sales price for a detached home in Manitoba this June was almost $484,000. That's up 2.1% from $473,000 last year. Prices are still appreciating, not at the pace of 2021 or 2022, but steadily, consistently moving upwards. For active inventory, 1,856 homes are on the market. That's up about 8.5% year over year. And here's the number you want to pay attention to. The new listings in June were up about 14.8% year over year. That's 1,691 new listings versus 1,473 in June of 2025. That's a surge in new supply entering the market. More sellers are getting active, and when supply grows faster than demand, even in a seller's market, buyers are starting to get more flexibility. Year to date through June, detached sales sit at 4,913, down about 6% from the same period last year. Prices are still up year to date, average about $477,000 compared to $460 this time last year. So fewer transactions, but the ones that are happening are at higher prices. Let's look at homes that are selling relatively to their list price. This is where you learn a lot about where the negotiation power really sits. In June, about 45% of detached homes in Manitoba sold over their list price. About 7.5% sold exactly at list, and almost 48% sold under list price. Just under half of all detached sales involved some negotiation room from the buyer. Compared to June of 2025, almost 50% of sales were over list, 42% were under. So a year ago, the balance was tipped more towards sellers, more bidding wars, and more competitive offers. And it seems like the days of every home automatically going over asking aren't happening as much as right now. And if you're a buyer who's sitting on the sidelines waiting for that to happen, the shift might be the signal you've been looking for. The sales by price range chart shows us that the 350 to 400,000 band is the most active with 170 sales. Right behind it is the 400 to 450 with 164 sales, and the 450 to 500 with 144 sales. So combined, the 350 to 500,000 price range accounted for 478 sales. That's about 39% of all Manitoba detached home sales in the month of June. And the highest price recorded in June was $3.25 million, which tells you the high end of the market is still very much active. Zooming in on the city of Winnipeg residential detached only, in June there was 805 detached sales within the city, essentially flat from last year where there was also 806. So demand inside the city is holding steady. The average sale price for a Winnipeg detached home in June was almost $496,000. That's up 2% from the $486,000 of June of 2025 and against the 5-year average of $458,000. Winnipeg prices are up about 8%, a meaningful premium to where the long-term average sits. So inventory is rising year over year. We're still running slightly below what a normal June historically looks like. The market release pointed to Waverly West and River Park South as the active neighborhoods this month. The city's consistently strong southwest communities where demand has been durable across multiple market cycles. It looks like Winnipeg buyers are seeing a little more selection than they were a year ago, but the price isn't retreating. 2% year-over-year increase and the 8% over the 5-year average tells you the underlying demand is still real. This map will give you a year-to-date average sales price by zone across Winnipeg, every MLS sale from January 1 to June 30th of 2026. The Southwest Winnipeg leads the city with 640,000 year to date. This is Bridgewater and Waverly West areas, where newer construction and larger lots command a consistent premium. Southeast Winnipeg came in at second at 533,000. St. Vital, Windsor Park, Sage Creek territory. Northeast for 422,000. North Winnipeg 390,000. And West Winnipeg, historically the most affordable zone in the city, at about 363,000. For condos, this looks a little bit different than the detached market. In June, there was 222 condo sales across Manitoba. That's down about 2.2% from the 227 sales in June of last year. And the average sale price is about $286,000, down 1.9% from the $291,000 a year ago. So on a year-over-year basis, we're seeing a modest softening in both volume and sale price for condos. Active condo listings came in at 464, actually down 8% from June of 2025. That's where we saw 505 active condo listings, so fewer condos on the market, but also slightly fewer sales. New listings came in at 304, down about 10% from last June. So the condo market on both ends, less supply coming in and slightly softer demand, is a quieter segment right now. And it's worth knowing if you're eager to buy a condo or thinking of selling one. Residential attached, so your townhome detached properties, is telling a different story than condos. Sales in June were 112, exactly flat from last year, but the average price is almost 412,000. That's up 10% from 373 in June of 2025. That's a big jump, more than 10% appreciation in an average price in this category over 12 months. It seems like the buyers who've been priced out of the detached homes are finding their way to the attached segment. Now, if we look outside the city limits and look at areas like Oakbank, RM Springfield, East St. Paul, West St. Paul, St. Andrews, Headingley, and Oak Bluff, I track these together as one combined segment because in any given month, the individual community volumes are too small to draw a reliable conclusion from one alone. So for those areas in June, there's 143 sales combined at an average price of about $610,000. Compared to June of 2025, there was 156 sales with the average price of $611,000. So slightly fewer sales this year, about slightly fewer transactions this year, about 8% fewer, and the average price is almost the same. So a difference of about $649 over 12 months. The buyers who want acreage, larger lots, or extra space outside the city are still willing to pay a premium for it. They're just not moving as quickly, which means if you're selling in one of these areas, surrounding areas consistently command a premium over the Winnipeg city average, about $610,000. So if you're looking at roughly $125,000 to $130,000 above the Manitoba detached average, that premium will reflect a lot size, space, and lifestyle based on the data the premium is holding. So what does this tell us about where the market is at right now? The June data is giving us a picture of a market that's healthy, active, and still favoring sellers. New listings are up 9 to 5% year over year, depending on the category. Active inventory is building. Buyers are getting a little bit more negotiation room than they had 12 months ago. And if you're a seller waiting for the market to get hotter, you may have already passed the peak of that window. The conditions are still good, but the direction is towards more balanced, not less. The detached average of 484,000 provincially is 2.1% higher than last June. Demand is real, but the surge in new listings means your competition is increasing as well. Homes that are priced well and show well are still moving. Homes that aren't are sitting. can see that in the 47% that's sold under list. If you're thinking about listing, the strategy right now matters more than it did a year ago. For buyers, if you've been waiting for the market to soften, you're seeing the early signs of it, but prices are still going up, which means waiting isn't free. You have slightly more negotiation room than a year ago. The list to sales ratio is shifting. Active inventory is growing. If you found this useful, make sure to subscribe. I do these every month. And if you're thinking about making a move, buying or selling, or just understanding what your home might be worth right now, I have links below in the description. You can book a call, get on an MLS alert list, or download any of the free guides I put together. Check out my next video on pricing. Thank you. See you next month.